I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business will approve the minutes of the last town board meeting on April 12th.
So moved.
Motion by Rich, second by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we'll have the Warrensburg Central School, Jennifer Switzer, and business manager, and Amy Langworthy, superintendent, put on their budget presentation. We'll get out of your way. Thank you for coming.
Good, yeah. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our budget. Our budget vote's coming up, so we wanted to share our budget with all of you. So we're going to go through just some information that we actually, Jen and I, did some presentations for our staff recently as well to just show them get an understanding of how our budget, the different allocations and the different components of our budget, and some of the areas, some of the focus areas that we have coming up that we are putting some money toward in the upcoming budget. So this is, I know it's very small here, this chart, but one of the things that obviously I'm sure all of you are very well aware of, and this shows an enrollment trend in our region from 1993 to the 29-year change. It gives a percentage, so I just kind of put a red highlighted arrow and underline there. So Warrensburg itself has seen since 1993 a 38% decrease in enrollment. If you see, some of the schools are higher than us, some are a little bit lower. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think this is important for everybody to see. Here's the enrollment trend in Warren County, just the Warren County schools that you can see here. So you can see that every school, even some of the larger schools, Glens Falls City schools, I actually used to work in Glens Falls City schools, and they've actually closed buildings due to it. They had a 2,800 enrollment and dropped 800 students. Did Queensbury? Lake George's current enrollment is less than Warrensburg's enrollment. They've seen a significant decline in particularly their elementary level the last few years. So our enrollment is actually higher than Lake George's is, which is not what it has been typically. They've always been a little bit higher than us. But you can see the changes in enrollment in Warren County schools. This is just showing you that across New York State, I'm sure all of you are aware, population has decreased just in general in New York State, and this obviously, when population decreases, it affects school enrollment. So we've seen a decline in the enrollment in the North Country, upstate New York, Adirondack Park region has been significantly impacted by enrollment changes. Schools north of us in what we call our True North Consortium, schools like Indian Lake, Long Lake, Newcomb, Minerva, they've seen even larger percentage decreases than we have. Warrensburg, believe it or not, even though we're a small school, we're one of the larger rural schools in our region in Washington and Warren County still. So in this I thought was interesting. You can see a little bit here where the orange or brown line is showing secondary enrollment, and the blue line is showing elementary enrollment. So what this really tells us is that in the elementary age, that families are either choosing to have, less smaller families or things like that. So there's been more of a decline in elementary enrollment than there has secondary recently. This is from 2011 to 2020 that we've seen. This is across New York State. This is a map of our Adirondack region. And so if you see, we're in the orange, so we're like at a loss in the orange categories, a loss of 10 to 25%. Some areas, some that I've mentioned, the red, Minerva, Inlet, Indian Lake, Lake George, Bolton has seen a loss of greater than 25% in the Adirondack Park region. So just a little kind of background. So this is our BOCES, our component school district. So you can see that we have 31 districts in our BOCES. So you can see the decline. This is just from 2000 this is 2020. So you can see what the number of student difference and the percentage of decreases. So Luzerne, Bolton, Argyle, Salem have all lost higher. And this changes a little bit from year to year because populations in our schools are small. Even 10 students does change the percentage somewhat significantly. So just keep that in mind. You're not talking about school districts with 10,000 students in them. So when you see a decrease of 40 students even, it's a significant percentage increase or decrease. So overall though, in our BOCES, there's been over a 20% drop since 2000. So with that said, and there's lots of, reasons people can, I guess assume from it, job opportunities, things like that, So, but one of the things that's been different that over the years, our staffing needs have changed. Even though enrollment has declined, needs within our community have increased. So if you are aware or not aware, that demographics in the Adirondack Park have changed, particularly related to poverty levels. So years ago, our poverty level may have been at 25, maybe 30%. We are we're almost 60% right now poverty level in our district. And I think if you look at most of the schools in Adirondack Park, some are higher than us, some are a little bit lower than us. But anytime you have issues related to poverty, you have issues related to food, transportation, generally things like substance abuse, domestic violence, things like that, mental health concerns, special education needs that come up. So there's a whole, you could do a whole host of research on the needs related and how poverty impacts not only your school, but your community. So with that said though, we have made some, but not huge increases in some of the staffing. We've had 2 school counselors in 2010. We added 1 more, which was actually a state requirement at the elementary level. So we have 3. We've stayed the same with 2 social workers, 2 school psychologists. We did have 1 for a short period of time. We've increased that to 2. Our administration has stayed the same. And we did add, when it says 2 BHSN therapists, one of the things that we have in each of our buildings currently is we actually have a mental health clinic in our building, in the elementary school and the high school. So students can actually go to counseling appointments and families can go to counseling appointments right within the school and within the school day. One of the biggest hindrances to families in poverty is transportation. And so if kids can't get to their counseling appointments, then they miss them. So they can get them in school now. So we have a full, what happened? Okay, all right. Sorry about that, guys. So we did add that. We also provide a dental program for our elementary students through Hudson Headwaters. So we're providing, we provide physical, we provide dental care, we provide a place for them to have counseling appointments, things like that. So we've added those kinds of services within the school. Next year, if you weren't aware, the Board of Education did approve 2 school resource officers, 1 for each building. So we're working with the county and Sheriff LaFar to try to secure 2 individuals to do that for next year. Help with school safety, hopefully make good connections and good relationships with students, families, and law enforcement. That's really the whole goal, and do some preventive programs and make those positive connections. So that's something that is added to next year's budget. So some of the priorities of our Board of Education when looking at our 23-24 budget was maintaining courses and elective choices for students. One of the struggles that small schools have, especially when enrollment declines, is how do you offer competitive programs for students similar to what students in larger schools get with less kids. And some of those include electives. You know, if you only have 2 kids who sign up for an elective, do you run the course or do you not run the course? Those are some of the things that you have to look at. Technology application and integration. I think our district's done a really great job with technology and provided not only teachers and staff, but students that technology that they need. One of the issues that we struggle with are students who still don't have high-speed internet at their house. That's a concern. It's an issue. It's a problem. And I don't know what the answer is. The state really needs to provide some assistance there, in my opinion. Continued opportunities and programs for students outside of the classroom, and obviously being sensitive to the economic climate, tax burden on taxpayers in general. So we've had obviously a series of workshops over the last several months, the year. It's really an ongoing process focused on core programs, activities that benefits our students, and overall in program enrollments for students, and what their interests are, what their needs are, what graduation pathways we want them to have, things like that, when we look at what we're looking at the budget, what the budget needs are. So some of the focus areas for next year that we have looked at and feel like is a need within our district and within our community is increasing our communications in the district to not only the school district, but the community as well. So we are increasing time with a communication specialist through Capital Region BOCES. We were going through Warren Saratoga BOCES. We've changed to Capital Region BOCES, although really great communications program. And so we're hoping that that will provide better communication both internally within our staff and externally to the community to get more information out and make those better connections. Food services. We have been for the last several years. We have a large deficit in our food service program for years. And the district made the decision years ago to outsource to a company called Aramark, which is essentially it's a business, it's a private business, that they provide food services to lots of schools, colleges, things like that. But they are a business, and they do, you know, obviously business wants to make money. We, the last couple of years, have taken a look at the food service program. We've listened to parents and students and staff about some of the issues related to food quality and the kinds of food offerings that are offered or not offered, and try to explore some options. So we have decided to go with Capital Region Food Services Program, along with another individual, Kevin Callahan, who lives in our community, who's going to be coming on board to work with the district and work with Capital Region BOCES. He's been running Middlebrook Conference Center for the last 27 years in Blue Mountain Lake, and he will be working with us on our food service program. The nice thing about Capital Region BOCES, as opposed to Aramark, not only are they in several districts, including both a diverse, I would say, group of schools. They go anywhere from Tupper Lake to Hartford to Saratoga, Troy, in some larger districts. They are focused on, I think my computer keeps timing out here. They focus on, because they're not a business, but they're a school support program, they're not in the business to make money. They're in the business to provide services for schools. So they do things even like taste testings with local restaurants and things like that for students to get a variety and explore. They've done some farm to school work, things like that. So we're really excited about that. The benefit financially to the district for us to go with Capital Region BOCES food service program as well as the communication service through Capital Region BOCES is, even though we have a first year layout of money to go out, we then get state aid back, so it becomes a revenue the following year. And our state aid, our ratio is high, so ultimately it ends up being financially beneficial for us to go with the service through BOCES as opposed to not. Some of the other things that we're doing is we're continuing to extend our college course opportunities for students. Last year, we made the decision to get rid of what are known as AP courses. AP courses are college placement courses, and what was happening is our students, at the end of the course, you take an exam and you get a certain score on the exam from 1 to 5. And so you have to score at a certain level in order to get college credit. If you don't score at a certain level, you don't get college credit. Or what was happening is if I am interested in a medical field, I might score high enough on an AP biology exam, but the college that I'm going to wants me to take their biology because it's their program. So then some of those credits weren't transferring. So we made the decision to switch to all college credit courses. So you take the course, you pass the course, then you get the college credit automatically. It's not based on your score. If you pass, you get it. So we went last year with adding 4 Syracuse University courses, which have a 93 or 95% transfer rate, no matter what school you go to. So we offer one in each of the core subject areas for all students to be able to take, generally their junior or senior year. We also have our exploring options through SUNY Albany, and we have some programs through SUNY Adirondack. I will be honest, SUNY Adirondack is not easy to work with. Syracuse University was very easy to work with, but it does cost more money to go with Syracuse University. Our district has decided that if we are offering any of these classes that our students are taking, we are covering the expense. So if the course costs $300 for the student to take it, we are going to cover that cost for them because we're offering it. So that's a little bit of an expense, but it's not a huge expense for us. The good thing is that our students can actually leave our high school if they choose to take if they choose to take all of it. I think they can currently get up to 27 college credits by the time they graduate. So it could shave, a half a semester or a full year off their college tuition, which, I think student loan debt is the second leading cause of debt in our country. So it can save a lot of money for a lot of our students and a lot of our families. And even some of our students who may not be able to go to college because of the financial hardship that it presents, maybe they can't afford 3 years, but maybe they can afford, or can't afford 4 years, but maybe they could swing 3 years if they could get a year. So we're going to continue to add some. We're looking at adding some more courses even for the fall. And then I know when I was here, when Jen and I were here last time talking about our capital project, we talked a little bit about our CTE program that's going to be part of that. It's a construction trades program. And so that will be in place for this year. We have had a team of people that have been working with the state CTE Center on having the difference between just a regular program like that or a certified CTE program is it allows students to get access to apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, internships, and go to a work with an actual certification in that field. So the construction trades program, we decided that one to start because it has a little bit of everything in it. It has electric, it has plumbing, it has building, things like that. It's a 4-year sequence. We have some students who are going to be coming to our program from other districts. Newcomb's going to send some, Queensbury wants to send some, and things like that. So we have a gentleman that we hired, actually brought in another teacher last year who has 10 years experience in the same program in Virginia, who's going to be spearheading the program. We also, what's really exciting is we have a workforce group, and it includes companies like Curtis Lumber, some plumbing companies, some construction companies that are actually going to be part of our committee. And so students will have opportunities to work with those companies moving forward for internships and job-related experiences. So we're really excited about that. The following year, following fall, we actually are doing a visit in May. We're going to start our own firefighter EMT CTE program. So students will have the opportunity to participate in this, can do internships with their local volunteer fire companies or paid fire companies, as well as our EMT services. And that will allow them also, if they want to go into even something like a med tech program, they can get that certification. So they'll be doing that. We're going to host that in our district. It's going to be open for other districts to participate in. So we're really excited about that. It'll be the first in our region. There's no other district in Argosy that has the firefighter EMT program for certification. So we're looking forward to that. And we are continuing to work with other districts. I'm on a committee with some Queensbury, Hudson Falls, and Argosy to look at what kinds of programs can we offer? If we offered a couple and say Bolton offered one or Queensbury offered a couple, we could share students. You know, we don't have to worry about, and it has the least financial impact to districts. If we're able to diversify programs and have different schools offer different programs, we can offer more opportunities for students. It doesn't make sense for us all to offer the same program, so we're really trying to put a planned, concerted effort into increasing the variety of programs available for students and encouraging students to consider trades as a career choice as well. But if we're encouraging them, we have to have the programs to offer them in order for them to be able to do it. So those are some of the focus areas that we're looking at how are we going to spend our budget dollars. So with that said, and if anybody has questions as we're going through, we'll certainly have questions at the end, but if you have anything, please feel free to ask. I'm going to turn it over to Jen, who's the money guru here, to go through some of these.
So everything that Mrs. Langworthy was just talking about is actually included what we are requesting from all of you, the taxpayers, the total spending of $22,970,041, which is actually an increase of almost $1 million over last year, which translates to a 4.5% increase. That will be accompanied by a 2% tax increase. So our taxes will increase $155,070 to $7,908,572. And lastly, the use of fund balance. Those of you who are not familiar with what fund balance is, this is unrestricted fund balance that is available to a school district. Municipalities have something very similar to that. It's basically savings. It's the money that is like for your own household incomes. It's your expenses less how much you make every year. So that's where that comes from. And we use that, as most school districts and a lot of municipalities, to balance our budget every year. Taking a look at how we spend our money, we're required to break out our budget into 3 separate areas: administrative, instructional, and capital. Administrative are those types of costs that are covered under the Board of Education. So it's any board expenses, it's the district clerk, it's legal, it's the superintendent's office, the business office, those types of parts of the school community. The instructional program is pretty self-explanatory. It includes anything that has to deal with instruction, including athletics and transportation. And lastly is capital. And capital are basically our facilities and the cost of making improvements to the facilities, which includes debt service. So this not only outlines how much each one of those categories are, more importantly, you can see the percentage of the budget that's allocated to those different areas. And as Amy was talking before about the enrollment changes that we've seen, if you look here at these numbers, you can see that we're still putting a very large percentage of our budget into instruction. And this is actually something that across our BOCES is also very high. This is just giving you a look from year to year and the dollar increases, and really just another way to look at it, more of a graphical analysis. So again, you can see how much we are spending on an annual basis in those program areas. And you'll see this next slide gets into a little bit more about why there were those changes in each one of those areas. The administrative is relatively flat. Instructional programs, the district, like a lot of municipalities, offers benefits to their employees. We saw a 12% increase to our health insurance this year, which was huge for us. And along with that, there's some smaller contractual increases. Most of our employees are covered under a contract, so there are automatic raises that we have to deal with. And then lastly, our capital. I explained this to the teachers, to our own board. Just like everyone in their own homes, we're all seeing increased costs in heating fuels and in our gas to put in our vehicles. We've seen a huge increase with that as well. And this also includes, as Mrs. Langworthy spoke about before, 2 school resource officers that have been added to the budget. So that's where those increases are coming in and why you see the increases that I was just explaining. Where does the money come from to support all of those expenses? The majority of our money comes from our revenue, comes from state aid. It's almost 58%. The local taxes makes up about 34, almost 35%. And then only 8% comes from other revenue sources. And those are generally revenue that's generated from payments from different school districts. If they have students attending, we do have students who attend from outside of the district, things like interest from our bank accounts, those types of things, again, pretty small. And then to the right, you can actually see the dollar amounts of what those revenues make up, including, as I spoke before, the fund balance. We, the board and the administration have not only just looked at our budget on a year-to-year basis, but we also are looking out 5 years. We look at our long-range financial plan when we're planning our budgets. And so part of this is making sure that we're keeping up to date on our facilities, improving our facilities, making sure they're safe, and how the school district has succeeded in that and how we plan to do it moving into the future is we get state aid. Part of the state aid that you saw there is specifically for buildings. And that's based on how much money we borrow and what our debt service is. And what the district's goal is, as you can see here, there's very little variation between the amount of building aid that we get and how much debt is put out on an annual basis. And so we're trying to make sure that we keep that up so that, as Mrs. Langworthy talked before, we're looking to make sure that we're not increasing taxes, and to do so, we're not having to dip into any more of our fund balance by planning out these projects. So we just finished a project. We came to all of you, you approved a project, and probably within the next 2 years, as we start actually construction, we'll be planning our next project so that we can continually roll old debt that comes off that we no longer have to pay and bring on new debt, which will be matched by new state aid that will come in. Part of the whole calculation of how we can bring a project to all of you, how we can continue on an annual basis to balance the budget, comes from our fund balance and reserves. The district has a healthy fund balance, and what we try to do is, as you can see, we have various reserves that we're allowed under law, and we try to keep those at a level. So if there are changes in state aid, if there are changes or increases into the retirement system, how much we have to pay, the New York State retirement system and teachers' retirement system, we have this money to offset large increases if we see them and help balance the budget. So again, we're not coming to you as taxpayers to constantly fill that hole, but again, planning for the future, planning for some unforeseens. And included in this is a capital reserve and the capital equipment reserve, 2 items that we use when we generally plan a capital improvement project, the one that you just passed. So there is $2 million of capital reserve that's going to be used to fund that capital project, which is again allowing us to come to you with a 0% increase on that. So we have almost $4 million available in fund balance to use for unforeseen expenses that may come up. And part of what you're not seeing here is, I mean, this is getting a little technical, but we all know that we need cash flow. So we know that you need so much money in the bank to pay your bills, and the school district is no different. We actually received, the last payment that we received for state aid is in early June. We don't start collecting taxes, as you all know, until September. So we have to have enough money, we have to have enough cash flow in order for us to continue to pay our bills. And so that's what some of this $4 million that you see here.
And years ago, just to tap into that, the district didn't have a set of reserves set up. And when the stock market crashed, basically when we had the recession, and the teachers' retirement, employees' retirement went way up, the district, we ended up having to lay off several people, and it really hurt a lot, honestly, in the district. So the district's done a really good job of looking at the reserves and putting money in there for situations like that. And we do have to replenish the capital reserve for the next project because we don't want to go out with any kind of tax increase either to be able to do the next one.
This is something that I think is something that everyone looks for. They basically want to know the bottom line. Okay, great. The budget's going up 4.5%. Your taxes are going up 2%. How is that going to affect me? So these are two examples. It's a home that's $150,000 and a home that's $250,000. Everyone receives the basic STAR, which lowers your taxable liability. And what this is pointing out are the true tax rates. So last year, the true tax rate was almost $12, $11.99. We're estimating based on last year's taxable assessed values. I haven't received the new assessed values yet. $12.24. So that $155,000 increase that you're seeing in taxes would actually translate to a $30 increase on a $150,000 home and a $55 increase on a $250,000 home. So that we're hoping that, again, the continued improvements to the school are the programs that we're continuing to offer, increasing safety with the 2 SROs, and what we're all seeing, the cost across the board, material supplies, heating, fuel, and gas will only cost the taxpayers anywhere between $30 and $55 if you have a home in that range. This is just giving you a little bit of perspective of what I was talking about, trying to be financially prudent in how we're planning for things. This gives you an idea. The yellow is the tax levy, how much tax we're collecting. The blue is state aid, and the green is expenses. And you can see they're all pretty much increasing at the same rate. Some more so than others. The expenses more so than the state aid and tax levy, but not to the point where you're seeing huge dips. And this is what we want to see. We want to see that continued balanced approach to how we're bringing education to your, whether it's your grandchildren, your children. This is actually all the data behind that chart that you just had. One of the reasons that we want you to see the numbers, because something that stands out to at least the administration and the board, if you look back to 2016-17 and 17-18, our tax levy was actually more than it is currently. It's 7.9%, as I've mentioned a couple of times. It was 8.2 and 7.96 back in 2016-17. So again, I think it's a nod to the administration, to the Board of Education, of always being very cognizant of the community and economic situation, whether it's this community alone or it's globally. This is just a summarization of what I've been talking to you about. It's just giving you, again, $22 million, almost $23 million that we're going to need to operate the school next year, a $7.9 million tax levy, which is a 2% increase, and that's below our tax cap. Again, any of you who are been around municipalities and schools know that there is a tax cap, and know the tax cap is not 2%. That's something that's a bit of I don't want to call it misleading, but misinformation. There's a lot of variables in how we calculate the tax cap, but we actually could have a 3.1% tax cap. But the district chose again to go with that 2%. Along with asking you to vote on our budget, the other proposition that you'll be seeing on the ballot this year is for 2 new leased buses. One is a 66-passenger bus. One is a 32-passenger bus with a wheelchair. Some years ago, the school district went from purchasing buses to leasing buses. It's been a very good move on the school's part as far as being able to control costs, making sure that those costs remain. You don't see, again, those big dips and highs sometimes when you purchase vehicles. And it's also allowed things like the maintenance of these vehicles, again, for us to control those types of expenses as well. And that expense, the lease expense, is included in the $22 million. And lastly, we only had 1 board position open. We only had 1 candidate, Darren Dool, who is also a current board member, who applied to seek a position. And that seat will run from July of this year, 2023, through June of 2027. Just a reminder to vote on May 16th. And one of the bigger changes to all of you, along with some of the increases that you saw, are the times that we're actually going to be holding the vote this year. We've moved it from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. to 12 p.m., 12 p.m. in the afternoon until 8 p.m. We're hoping that that still gives people time enough to get up to the school and vote. And if any of you need an absentee ballot, there's still plenty of time for you to request an absentee ballot. You can call my office. We'll make sure that you get one. And as long as we get it by 5 p.m. on May 16th, your vote will count that way as well. So. Any questions?
Questions?
Amy?
Yeah.
You mentioned Syracuse University and an ACC.
Yeah.
Easier to work with Syracuse University. What's your thoughts on why our local college is, not playing ball?
So my understanding is that SUNY Adirondack, the individuals who are in charge of their departments, the head of the department, whoever that individual is, has the ability to approve teachers to provide a, whether it's an English course or a math course or something along those lines. And if they don't give you the approval, then we are obligated to go to SUNY Adirondack because they are the SUNY within our county. So if they don't give you the approval, you can't offer the class through them because they have to oversee it and allow you to offer that course to give the kids the college credits. It's an extremely frustrating thing for many of us. All of the districts in Warren County have spoken of that. In fact, most of the districts in Warren County are not using SUNY Adirondack, which is not the same in other counties or people who aren't under the obligation to go to a particular, because there may not be a SUNY in their county. So many of the districts, in fact, most of the districts are opting to go to a private university like Syracuse or something because they're allowing us to work with them. And it's been really frustrating. I know there was another meeting to discuss this with SUNY Adirondack. It's happened multiple times. And school districts in Warren County just aren't having success there, unfortunately.
Keep fighting.
It's been an ongoing thing. So if you talk to most, or if you contacted most schools in Warren County, they would tell you they're using a different college or university.
What was the state aid? Was it raised or lowered?
So state aid for our foundation aid went up 3%. We're considered a hold harmless district, which means that the formula that's used for the foundation aid is not applied to the district based upon the economic status. So there's a minimum that we receive every year, and that's a 3% increase. And then all of the other aid that's included, that's about almost $10 million. The other $3 million of state aid is all expense driven. So it's aid for our special education students that we get reimbursed for. It's our building aid and that's our transportation aid. So that's all based on how much we spend the previous year. And there's a percentage that's allocated to each one of those areas. But overall, 3%, about $300,000 increase. Other questions?
Well, I appreciate your time, and please, encourage people to please come out and vote on the day of the vote. And we're, looking forward to continue to work with the programs in our community and expand those. So we appreciate your support and allowing us to come here and present to you. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
We'll take a 5
whether there is enough posting capacity that determines the number of acreage that we're gonna use. We target the landfill that we have here because we're trying to have the support of local residents. As we're aware, like I think there's so many advantages of having a solar farm in a landfill. One of those is that having a solar farm and a landfill address some of the concerns about public health in the local community. It also encouraged other businesses to come to the town of Warrensburg, businesses that want to be more like pro-renewable energies. The current government is trying to achieve it's looking to have community solar powering around 5 million households. And it's in one of the notes that they have is that in 2021, we have only powered 5,000 megawatts only for community solar that have been installed in US. So what we're proposing to the town is to have solar farm. I have some layouts. Unfortunately, they have more. I didn't expect to have many people, but I'm assuming it's going to be public. This is to build only around 1 to 1.3 megawatts AC. It depends on the acreage we can use. There's a piece of the corner, on the western corner, that we're not sure if we can use.
That's just no doubt.
Okay, if we cannot use that, then the total system size for this project will be 1 megawatt. We're not planning to remove trees. We're avoiding those areas where we can possibly get a shadow from some other trees. And the access to the solar farm is going to be on the main street because we have identified the power lines over there. We are proposing to pay $5,000 per megawatt to the town with a 2% escalator. So I think that will be, let me look at the numbers. So we're talking about just 1 megawatt AC. By year 25, the town will generate $160,000. And if we extend the lease, that can go up to $249,000. This lease contract will be only for 25 years, but can be extended to another 10 years. 2 option extensions by each one. The tenant, Abundant Solar, will take care of the maintenance. We have the commissioning plan also, and we follow the local requirements. So if everything goes well, if we get the support from the local community, and we estimate to have the project maybe built in a time frame of 18 months to start generating the electricity, put it back into the grid. We also have this community solar program where local residents can subscribe. The way that it works is that you can subscribe to, in this case, to this community solar that could be placed in the landfill. And who can be subscribed to this community solar are the local residents. The local resident, as long as we are within what is called the load zone F, that's determined by the utility company. So Capital Regions, Glens Falls, Queensbury are within this load zone. So if you want to get subscribed, that's free. You subscribe, you get a percentage of the energy that is generated in this solar farm. And you're gonna get this energy credits reflected as a discount in your electric bill. I don't know if you have some questions.
Sure, we'll open it up. Any questions from the audience? Chief, just stand up.
So it's just, in reference to this landfill, are you gonna do a balance system?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be a tilt system where is it a fixed system or is it a full tilt?
I don't have that on top of my mind right now. I think we need to run some tests, but I can get
So, and I don't know, does the landfill have a slope to it that is excessive?
There are some
Part-
slopes there represented in the layout. There are some areas that we avoided because of the slopes.
Okay. And then in reference to your decommissioning plan, how will that take place?
Okay, once, that's, depends on the lease contract. We talk about 25 to 35 years. At the end of this contract, we're gonna remove solar panels, all the bulk, and get back and put the site to the original condition.
What about, you talked about giving a credit back to the residents. It just seems so little that we're going to get back from it. Is there any other opportunities to gain, a residential, credit, or, we also have businesses that wanna do it, and a 1.5 versus a 5 megawatt is significant to me.
Yeah,
So
I
can you
totally
explain a little bit
understand,
about that?
and in this case, because we're limited by the acreage, we are not considering a 5 megawatts solar project in a different parcel. It's just considering the acreage that is available.
Right, and so in your arrangement, you'll have to come up with an agreement with National Grid to connect to them?
Yes, we
Is there
first.
any additional infrastructure that you need to install to meet their
Exactly.
requirements?
It's my understanding that another developer has approached or have targeted this parcel, but it didn't happen because of interconnection and upgrade costs to the substation. What happened is that with the recent investment tax credit, nowadays that makes the project more visible, and that's where we're trying to go to after this project. But we go through a series of studies with National Grid. We go through a study that tells us that number. It's gonna tell us how much we're gonna pay for interconnection upgrade if it's needed. And that takes about 6 months.
What about?
Sorry, 2 months.
So what about the pilot program? Are you approaching the town or the county with the pilot?
Yeah, so I confirmed this morning in Warren County, it seems like only the school district in Queensbury is the only one that have opted out. Yeah, and so we can go through the IDA with the pilot agreement.
But would you come to the town for one?
Yeah, we can have that agreement.
So how does the local community gonna benefit by that? What are they gonna get out of that in reference to energy?
That's through the community solar program.
So if I understand you correctly, they would have to sign up for it.
Yeah.
And based on the numbers you threw out, it really is not gonna amount to a heck of a lot, correct?
It's not gonna be like big, but it's still some like,
Do you have a general idea?
some people say like 10%, but I don't want to give that wrong number. It definitely,
Do you have any numbers or research you've done on this over the years?
well, it changed because there are different off-takers or different companies that does this community, the one that are getting the subscribers.
I don't really know.
But they're also like, with community solar can give the preference like to local residents. Let's say we have a 5 megawatts project. The town can say, okay, we want our local residents to have preference. In this case, it's a small project, so it's not like we're gonna
So
pay
they're
for
not gonna benefit a lot from it.
the local residents.
Right.
Again, it is limited by the system side.
So where's this energy gonna be going?
The energy is going back to the grid.
So you're just making energy to sell back to National Grid?
Correct.
So we're not gonna really make anything out of this.
Well,
Tell me it's $5,000, we're gonna, with
What are we
the,
gonna get?
talking about $5,000 a year
Oh, okay.
in revenue.
yeah, that's because we're leasing the land from the town.
Okay.
That's a separation. So there, we have the pilot, we have the lease agreement, and the community solar for whoever wants to get subscribed.
Do you maintain the field?
Sorry?
Do you maintain the solar field?
Yes, we do that.
Mowing?
Maintenance, yeah.
It's all fenced in, correct?
Yeah, it's fenced.
Of course, we do have to put this out to bid, correct, Robert?
The state recommends it, but that's not required.
Potentially, we'd have to put it out for an RFP or bid.
I think it's a good idea.
That's why we're here tonight, just to ask
That's a good
questions.
idea.
Resolution is subject to permissive referendum.
Mr. Holm.
So if you're talking this $5,000 a year, that's based on selling how many megawatts back to grid
Yeah, that's per megawatt.
for 1 megawatt.
Yeah, and this, we estimate that this landfill is gonna produce 1 megawatt at least. So
Okay.
it will be 5,000.
So when you're
a year.
selling it, when you're gonna give us $5,000, what is grid paying you for the energy that they have to buy from you, by megawatt? How much are they paying you?
Oh, I don't have the,
Well,
it's 2 cents, but I didn't have that.
I've researched these, and the people that make money in these things are you, not you and me. And at the end of 30 years, the life expectancy of a solar panel, they're gonna give you $5,000 a year, and they're probably gonna take in 40 or 50 or $100,000 a year. At the end of 30 years, those solar panels are no good. And in several places, the companies who put these things, at the end of 30 years, their corporation or whatever they put them in under is now vaporized. Gone bankrupt, disappeared, left the country, wherever they are. And now the town, or the people whose land that these sit on, are stuck with all these solar panels that don't work, outdated, and then they have to pay to take them off the property.
Well, there's a
Well,
commission in,
I'll jump in. And the reason Laura knows so much about this is because we have worked with her in the town of Queensbury, where her job is. And this is part of her many duties that she's been, that she has. And part of the negotiation, in any lease or any town approval is having the decommissioning plan. And she will tell you how much time we have spent fighting on making sure that the decommissioning plans have some money, some background that will be there, because a lot of times the proposals you get are ephemeral, like what you're describing. But we have been negotiating with many, the we is not me in this case, but our firm has been negotiating with many of these types of projects, and they're moving forward. We will, if that's the question that you got, that is part of our job to help protect the town. We will help you do
Well, I
that.
mean, if they have an escrow fund set up that the town controls,
Yeah, a lot of times they
that
don't.
might be one thing, but if they've gone bankrupt, whoever, I'm not saying this guy, I don't care who puts it in. That
Well-
company goes bankrupt, and who are you gonna get the money from?
There will
Rock.
be a bond, which will have a provision, which has been where all the negotiations.
Performance bond, Don?
Where
Is it a performance bond?
it's a bond, and we have to make them put this in their bond, because they don't pose it in any of it I've seen. But there is language that the bond companies will put in, that they will give you 60 days written notice that this company was paying them for the bond, and then the town has a provision, and they can say, give us all that money, and you would be paid at that time. It's very time consuming negotiations. Jackie and I talk a lot about it. The partner at the firm dealing with it, and she's been working a lot with Flora and some other of our towns that are running it exactly. So we will focus on that issue, because that's what we see as a big issue. So we can work that out in other words, if you want us to.
Anybody else?
Could we work out a 50-50 split with them?
Well, that's a matter of negotiation. That's,
You can say yes, you can say no.
yeah, they can say no.
Do I understand you correctly that the western portion of the lot is not viable?
That's, my
Is
understanding
that-
That's a
that
no.
Yeah,
we cannot use that.
So it's not gonna be part of it.
No, it's not
No,
gonna
it
be
is.
part.
So that reduces the amount that you're gonna be able to, from
Um,
0.35 to
Well,
1.
it's written up.
If we use it, it will be 6,000. But if we don't know, since we're not gonna use that western corner, it's gonna be just 1 megawatt, 5,000 per megawatt.
And you'd be fully responsible for all the maintenance
Yeah,
from day
correct.
one.
That's a tenant's expense.
Thank you.
Trying to make this money.
Right?
So these, we already know with experience that these panels start out good and they generate, and when you're gonna pay us on so much that it generates, over time, they become inefficient and start generating less.
We do maintenance and repair. We detect the modules that are not working and those get replaced. We all know that technology changes every time. So that's why we do operations and maintenance
I got you.
So,
to keep the energy production.
so when you say operations and maintenance, do you take, are you gonna be responsible for taking those panels out in the end?
The decommissioning plan, you may understand that would be Abundant Solar. There are some other companies that can do the commission.
But you would make that arrangement, your company?
It
That would be
in the-
part of our,
Could be part of the
that's what
decommissioning.
exactly what Jim, I was responding to Jim's. I try not to jump in, but that's a legal thing that we do quite a bit this year, you know. As we know, for all of the program projects are coming.
I know the county's looking at a huge solar array at the airport.
Is the CBC something, right?
But I guess in theory, they're gonna make enough, they think, to run the entire operations of the airport off the revenue. And that sounds tremendous, but this, anything, I like revenue for the town, I'm all for, even if it's $5,000. But again, there are concerns, these things, I use them in my camp and they're great little things for personal use. But when it comes to limited feasibility, that we've been burned a couple times with these solar deals in this town, and we don't have to happen again. So I think the RFP, if we want to throw that out there, let's get soup to nuts, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Anybody else? Well, I thank you for coming tonight, and then we certainly will get back to you in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to do the reports, or you want to waive them?
Let's waive them.
Yeah.
Waive them?
Yeah.
So we're going to dispense with any reading of any reports tonight. If anybody has a report that wants to turn into us, that's fine. Communications, I received information about New York, DEC, New York State Screen Purchasing Program from Bob Bradley. We did the solar array. Next item of business, a resolution authorizing implementation and funding in the first interest, 100% federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible cost of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds thereof. Therefore, this project is the River Street Sidewalk Project. So your resolution is in your packet tonight. Basically, what we're doing is we have a federal aid project, the sidewalks, 900 some odd thousand dollars. We've had it for a few years. We just haven't started work on the project because of the pricing and everything that's gone with it. We need to pass this resolution tonight if we're going to move ahead and to go ahead with that sidewalk.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by John, second.
I'll second.
Second by Brian. Discussion. This is a federal state aid project. All those in favor? I guess we have to do a voice vote, shouldn't we?
I know. It's totally up to you. Doesn't need a majority.
Okay, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So that we expect that to hit the ground when, Ed? August. Okay. The legal ads for that will be placed in the newspaper around 1 p.m. Okay, 10th, 12th, and 19th. Okay, so anybody's interested in bidding on this project, it should be in the Post-Star those 3 days. What's next? Next is a resolution allowing Flatley Reed to apply for a grant for the New York State Main Street Program, which is part of the CFA process. The town has identified a target area and information will be available in the town clerk's office. Cost to apply for this grant program is not to exceed $3,000. And we have, they went out a year ago and found a target area to apply for these grants. The grant can be applied for is between $300,000 and $500,000. The guidelines permit awards of $50,000 per building or $25,000 per residential unit for a maximum of $100,000 award. Building owners are responsible for 100% to put the money up. You have to put the full amount of this money up, and then you'll be reimbursed through the process. I gotta make that perfectly clear. We're not gonna have grant funding sit here where we can dole out. The building owners are responsible for paying 100% of the total cost and will be reimbursed between 50 and 75%.
Resolution.
So somebody want to make that motion? Motion by Rich, second by John. Go ahead with this grant application for the Main Street project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right. Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring their annual golf tournament at Cronin's on June 4th, and I'd like to make a motion that we give them $100 for Oxley tax money for promotion.
So moved.
Motion by Rich,
I'll second it.
second by Brian, to give $100 to the Chamber of Commerce for the golf tournament. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next is a resolution request to Governor Hochul in support of legislation that will allow towns the option to assess all newly constructed condominiums in a manner that reflects the most current market value. And what this is about, condominiums are not, they're assessed like single-family homes sometimes. And the value of condominiums, based on what we were told by the Assessors Association came into the county, is they're nowhere near the value of what they really are worth. A condominium can sell for $2 million and may be assessed for $250,000. So the Assessors Association is going to be, we're asking the state government and the governor to support a home rule. This is home rule. Every town would have to pass this to allow our assessors to assess these on a fair market value price. It will not go back and do any condominiums that already exist. It will be condominiums that are built going forward. It seems to be somewhat of a trend. So I'm asking the board that we're passed a resolution, going to send a letter to the governor asking her that she support this.
Motion made.
Motion,
Yeah,
second by John.
Sure.
Any other discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I have one budget modification. We're appropriating $50,000 of fund balance, and we're putting into assessor contractual. As I told you last month, we're going ahead with a reval of the town, so we're going to pay half of it this year and half of it next year. The total cost of the reval is around $105,000. So I need a motion to approve this budget modification. Motion?
I'll second it.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Next, we need to move $3,000 out of building contractual and put it into $3,000 buildings and equipment. We're buying some new equipment for the building. We're buying some computer equipment. We're upgrading our server downstairs, and we've planned for a lot of this equipment in data processing, but this is something we're putting into the buildings. And then the second budget transfer will be $5,000 from cemetery contractual into $5,000 cemetery unemployment to cover our unemployment expenses for our temporary labor up there when he's done.
So moved.
So motion, Rich,
I'll second.
second by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Here. Warrant tonight, warrant number 5 is $125,503.09. Motion to approve the warrant.
I'll make that.
Brian,
Second.
second by John, to approve the warrant of $125,503.09. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Any comments from the public? Anybody wish to get up and address the board on any topic? Please do. can't hear what you're
What?
saying. I can't hear anything, so go ahead.
Hi, I'm just here to represent Richards Library.
Richard.
Just an update, what's happening. That there's things happening in the main June events you can find on our Facebook page. And it's for everyone, so it's not just for kids. We have a lot happening with adults. We have computer programming. If you need help, just reach out, stop over, see what's happening. I just want to let you know that if you have an iPhone, a Kindle Fire, or an iPad, you can download books for your libraries, audio books for those who have a hard time seeing, which I think is awesome. So I can't specify this enough. Just don't think of the Richards Library as just a book place. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Stop over, look us up on Facebook. We have a Tri-County Literacy Center program happening in our area for people, for adults who need help. I just can't say enough. And I have stuff here in reference to Tech Talk for people who need help with your computer. I can't tell you that enough. And this will tell you how to access your books on your iPad, your Kindle, your computer. So there's a lot happening. You don't have to leave your house to go get your book anymore. And they have become expensive, so I know that much. So come to Richards Library.
How's it doing, Mary?
Actually, I think we're doing awesome. We have a wonderful board. We have the new director is awesome. She's got it totally together. I'm pretty impressed. So
Very good. Thank you.
I'm still there, so that tells you something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, you had one thing?
Yeah, we waived the reports, but I want everybody to know that we are doing the leaf and brush pickup the week of May 15th and the week of the 22nd. And there'll be no more pickup after May 25th until the fall. So we'll make sure we get that out there. It's a good process. It helps clean up the town and get your stuff out to the curb with the butt ends out there where they can get to them. So, yeah. There you go.
Okay, anybody else wish to address? Rich, go ahead.
Please.
Sandy Parisi, Queensberry, sorry. Listening to the school presentation, I was horrified at the number of students that are reduced since they have been. How many Airbnbs do we have? How many houses does that contain? Jim?
What was your question?
How many Airbnbs?
72.
72. So if 35, take half of them, had one child living in it, that would be a huge increase rather than a decrease. I just find it,
Yeah,
I don't know what to say about it. I know.
It's North Country wide, that's everywhere.
I know, and that's why everybody, I mean,
We're trying to region moving up here, that's what we're having, and their Airbnbs.
but beautiful houses that could handle 3 or 4 kids, bedrooms.
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, yes, they are. There's been a lot of pregnant people around.
I don't want to disagree with Sandy, but I look at the births in Warrensburg and Thurman,
Yeah, I do too.
and I don't see too many.
Well, but it's,
This last
how many
Last
would there
couple
be
times
if there were young people moving in?
couple of times in the paper, I haven't seen anybody born in Warrensburg or Thurman. They haven't come, so it's a trend. Our population decreased in this last census
I know.
by a little bit,
I know.
not as much as some other communities, though. It's actually staying pretty stable. It's not going up, but it really didn't go down that much. If you look at our census this last year.
Okay.
On the bright side,
Yes.
it wasn't on that report that said no data available, but Racket Lake has had a 100% increase in the number of students in their school.
And what caused that?
That means that a child was born.
One child, exactly.
So they gotta hire a teacher
Yeah,
or tutor.
I know. All right, I'm done.
Sandy, thank you. Anybody else?
Jim wants to speak.
Jim wants to speak.
Enters.
Just to add to Sandy's comments, and it's not that I'm disagreeing. Being a realtor, trying to find homes to show to young families that have good credit, but there aren't any, or if they are actually being sold instantly by people who are coming from, let's say, the South, with deep pockets and cash, and offering above asking price. Now, the positive side to all of this is that these homes are being transformed into things that are very beautiful and contribute to our community. And the people who rent them, weekly or the weekend, whatever, are spending money in our community. And obviously, we're getting some money back from the permitting fees that we charge. So those are all good things. Living in an area where we have a lot of vacation rentals, I mean, I'm seeing people enjoying our community, which I love to see. And I always think that we're so lucky that we live here and we get to experience it, every day. But when people spend money, save money to vacation, and they choose where we live, that's a really cool thing. I mean, I don't want to deny anyone that, but just a thought, because obviously this is happening across the world. And we do have the ability to limit the growth, not stop it, but sort of, moderate it. Maybe not everywhere in town is the perfect location for a vacation rental. Maybe we could cap it off per year, so many, just an idea, I just
That's
wanted
called
to
spot
share.
zoning and it's illegal. If you look an area, spot zoning is illegal as far as I know.
Well, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about saying to do it for like a particular person that wants to buy the property. I'm just saying.
No, you said area, certain areas. That's what I heard you say. That's spot zoning.
Well, that's zoning, period. I mean, zoning is creating areas where different things can happen. So I don't know if that's spot zoning, but that's the definition of zoning, basically.
I
So,
wouldn't know unless you help me.
so anyway, I just, I'm just trying to see both sides to this issue. And I think that there's great benefits from it, but there are some drawbacks. That's all I wanted to say.
Anybody else? Jim?
It's your turn.
I just did some quick calculations on kilowatt. I just looked up, they pay 34.75 cents per kilowatt grid. And doing this out roughly at the end of a year, they would make $3,044,000. They would take in $3,044,000
On 1 megawatt,
on a 1 megawatt thing. There's 1,000 watts in every megawatt, and if you're pumping out 1 kilowatt, if you're pumping that out 24 hours a day, multiply 34.75 times 1,000, and then do that times 24 hours a day times 52 weeks in the year. They're making over $3 million.
let's build them ourselves.
That's why I said, that's why when you see, you'll do a 50-50 split. And the thing with the school is that I want everybody to get.
We can't do anything with the school.
I understand that, but I just want to make a statement. I understand kids need an education. When I was in school, there was the same number of kids, there was less kids. There's less kids in school now than when I was in school, correct? Brian, you were there.
Yep.
There was less kids in school now than there was in 1964. We had one school. One school. Now we got 2 schools with less kids. And eventually, there's 2%, 2%, 2%, 2%. That's nice, because they're all getting a raise. They're all going up over here. They're in administrative and all these other people. And I understand people need to make a living. But there's a lot of people out here in Warrensburg that live on a fixed income. And they're not getting a 2% raise or a 4% raise that keeps going on with this. And at some point in time, I think the taxpayers ought to stand up and say, okay, enough's enough. Shove everybody into one school and sell the other one, because you're not getting inundated with kids here. You look at her whole list, it's going just like this. The people that are coming up in here are not raising families. Ain't happening. And people that live here are not having oodles of kids. My opinion is we need 2 schools like we need a spaceship, because they're filling voids.
But that's not something
I
we can do.
understand. I know you can't do anything about it, but I'm just making a statement.
Separation of school and state.
They're using school buses to pick up every kid in the town of Warrensburg now. If you live 10 feet from the school, they'll pick you up and take you to school.
That ain't right. Go to the Board of Education.
Yeah. Well, it's the truth. That's what they're doing.
Go to the Board of Education.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to give a quick update of the Warrensburg Comprehensive Plan. We have activities since May of 2023. In the winter of 2022, we did stakeholder outreaches. In January 2023, we had Hamlet redevelopment focus groups. In January of 2023, we also had committee meetings, 3 to review feedback from outreach. We developed our plans, our vision and goals, reviewed preliminary recommendations related to housing, recreation, and celebrating Warrensburg. We also did, in February of 2023, we conducted small business stakeholder calls and emails. Labella submitted Restore New York Round 7 application for the King Street garage on our behalf. In March of 2023, we had meeting 4 to review feedback from the small business outreach, review recommendations related to Hamlet development and small business and support entrepreneurship. And then May 2023, we just had our last update draft list of recommendations. Our next step, and I apologize for reading it verbatim, is that it needs to be part of the record. So next step is public workshop to review draft recommendations. It's scheduled for June 20th at 6 p.m. at the Firehouse Community Room. The opportunity for virtual feedback on the draft recommendations will be available. Next committee meeting is scheduled for July 24th to review the draft plan. In that time period, we'll be able to submit a smart growth application to fund zoning updates through 2023 through the CFA. We will hold a public hearing on the plan in August. This is through the town board. And then hopefully we'll be able to go through seeker in September and potentially adopt the plan sometime in probably October.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that Jack.
Anybody else? Oh, go ahead, yes.
I'd like everybody to know that our Chamber of Commerce has taken the lead to host a mixer, mostly for our business people, so they have an opportunity to have some input. That's on June 7th, 5:30 to 7:30 at Lizzie Keys. The public is welcome, and it's also North Warren Chamber is co-sponsoring this with Warrensburg Chamber. So if you folks that like to be involved, please come and share your thoughts. And the board, of course, is invited.
Anybody else?
Please attend. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna have the last word. You need business to pay the bills. You can have all the master plans and all the overlays and all these areas where you don't want business. But business is what pays the bills in any community. And that's what we need to be embracing. And that's where I hope we're headed. We need business in Warrensburg to pay the bills. And all this other stuff, quite frankly, we're one of the fortunate communities that have a good short-term rental law. And now they're paying occupancy tax. Perhaps they're going to start paying sales tax. I think it was in the state budget. I don't know if it got passed. But it does improve what we can do in our community, but it's the businesses. It's the businesses. I can show you on Main Street in my office where I went and picked 9 or 10 properties on Main Street as they currently are assessed. $1.8 million. I picked the two new businesses on Main Street. And one business is not fully been assessed yet. It's $5.5 million in assessed value. That's what's going to pay the bills. That's reality. That's what's going to pay the bills. And I'm not anti having the old homes rehabbed, but it's just like the Main Street grant. People are going to have to put their own money up to do this. Now, we were fortunate, and I'm happy that EFC just paid us for the transmission line. We just received our first payment on a transmission line. It was only about 3 months, maybe 3 or 4 months, but it's business, and that's what you need to really start thinking about. Business in the community and embracing businesses to come in here because that's what pays the bills. And short-term rentals, I'm here to tell you, a lot of towns are following our lead on what we did here with our law. And it's worked out very well. We're in our second 3-year cycle, I think, Jim?
Well, we did reissue to all the first people who got in.
Yeah, so we're in our second cycle. And I can tell you, last year, we may have had 1 or 2 complaints. 1 complaint last year. So I embrace these short-term rentals. As long as they're doing it the way we want them to do it. These people buy these homes, they fix these homes up. And eventually, with our new reval going through, we could pick up some more assessed valuation on them. We still value them. We don't value them like businesses. That's not something we can do yet, I don't believe. But anyways, I'm all for business in this community. I'm open for business. I'm open for anything else you want to put forth. But businesses is what pays the bill in Warrensburg. So that being said, motion to adjourn. Thank you all. And that's it. I got it. You know, you can have all these fancy things, but I ain't gonna be told how zoning by Teresa Wade.